No, I wanted to do this video officially with you just because I feel like I'm at this point in my career where I feel as though I'm licking my wounds after several failures, which is weird because less than a year ago, I sell this business, get a $11-ish million check and change, plus, you know, another big check on its way from when the rest of it sells. But I feel like there's almost been this dark cloud of failure that precedes that a bit and kind of came to a tilt or a hilt in the past couple of weeks with like my own following and with capitalism.com and I spent so much time trying to make it into something. And what we should have been doing was documenting the highs and the lows and building real businesses.
Like Backroom member stories. Instead of talking about like Burt's Bees or whatever else. Topical.
I forgot about that. Oh my goodness.
Topical.
It's like I just feel like I tried. In some ways, I've done a lot of self-defeating of. Besides, I mean, financially, I'm fine. It's just I feel as though I put so much work into something that was such a miserable failure up until this point. So I just wanted to reserve time to have like, you know, I'm 30. I've figured out all the R&D of like research and development of things that didn't work.
Yeah.
And now it feels like we're at a reboot period because we just let half the team go because I made these stupid mistakes of just hiring all these people to try and get somewhere and losing $100,000 a month. Just trying to grow, whatever that means. It was like, what was I thinking? And now that's over.
Yeah.
And we've stopped the bleeding and we've come back to center. I just wanted to have this spot of like 2 years from now coming back and being like, oh, that was when we went in a different direction. And so I know every time I've gone through a hard time, I've come back and looked at it and said, all the success I had was because we reset at that period. And I know we're at that period. We're at that point of like, we're at that reset period and it like freaking sucks. Like I hate the period.
So I thought you were going to say you feel good about the reset period.
No, I hate it.
Because the future is unlimited and bright.
No, I don't feel that way at all. I feel like I just failed. I feel like, what have I been working towards? I feel like I had all these opportunities and I squandered them. And I feel like I'm doing a lot of beating myself up. I just fired however many, I don't even know,
four people?
4 or 5 people.
Yeah.
And these are people I love and care about.
Yeah.
And I lost a ton of money with these experiments. I burnt my body into the ground. Like my body was just wrecked.
Yeah.
My mind was wrecked. I had no creativity. And now that I'm like clearing it all away and like coming back to center, I'm sitting there thinking, well, what the hell was I thinking? So like this is not the fun period of entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
This is not the like, hey, we're killing it, like driving Lambos. Like this is the, man, this sucks. But I wanted to document it because I know every time I've gone through that 2 years from now, I'm like, that was the most important thing that happened.
Yeah. I feel like I'm at this similar point where, you know, I'm turning 30 in June and it feels like 30 to 50 is sort of the sweet spot in your career. And that, I mean, who knows? We could live to 90, 120, 150, but why so
early, man. 138 is my number.
So it's like, what is the impact we're going to have in the world? But the losing money is, I think it's so relatable to entrepreneurs because everyone in your audience, everyone who watches your content knows what it's like to have a product fail, business fail, need to make a really hard pivot, let employees go. So,
And if they don't, they're gonna.
yeah. They haven't yet. If everything's been going perfectly for them, then they're going to have some. But I like that video you did where you're saying entrepreneurship is a life sentence.
Yeah.
And
I stole that from Dan Sullivan.
Oh.
But everything smart I've ever said, I've stole from Dan Sullivan, Travis Sago. Who else? Maybe Jesse Elder. Although, Jesse, you say some weird things, too.
Tim Ferriss.
I don't steal much from Tim. I don't talk about how many hours a week I work out. 4. I'm talking about how many hours a week I work. Not 4. There's a sense, since we're resetting, if you will, of like, hey, see money. What do we like? What's the story we're gonna tell? What are we documenting? Because to be honest with you, I think it's gonna be weird to say, but the whole training other people to be entrepreneurs, I don't think that's our message.
So
I think people become successful entrepreneurs as a result of watching what we're doing, not because I'm teaching them anything.
Yeah.
And so after I had my big successes, it's almost like I stopped being an entrepreneur and I started being an entrepreneur to entrepreneurs, and that was it was like wrong to go in that direction almost.
So is the next level up to teach other people how to teach other people how to be entrepreneurs? Just go up a level.
No, I don't want to be the guy who gets rich selling ebooks about selling ebooks about selling ebooks. No, I think the next level is like, all right, I built a $10 million company. What's next? Like, I think you have to document the next great success.
So do you think the mission is still to keep creating decamillionaires, or start working towards 9-figure businesses?
No, it's just the million. Like we created what, like 400 or 500 millionaires.
Yeah,
handful of decamillionaires, but none of them happened because like I was out saying you can do it. It's because they were following along what we were doing.
Yeah.
And so for me, I think all the success stories almost happen as a byproduct. It's a byproduct of watching you do something great. It's like of them following along the pursuit.
You know what I think this comes back to is Kevin and Jeremy, when we were talking about the point at which they entered our ecosystem and our world.
Uh-huh.
So like, we just need to find more great people like them who we can support, and they can be a part of our community and they can help us. We need to find Kevin and Jeremy where they were like a year ago, 2 years ago.
So let me say this a little differently. Part of where I made the mistake, I think, was trying to make the following the business. That's not that's not the business, because it's not inspiring. It's like I don't want to be respected for that. The way that you both build the following and get insanely wealthy is that you build a real business.
A business, yeah.
No one respects me if I haven't built a $10 million company.
Yeah, and like Travis Sago isn't like a content guy.
Right.
We were just talking about how he does things that are not high production value. I've seen Dan Sullivan in like one video. It was cool. But he's not going the content route. He's not going the audience building route, in which you're trying to kind of monetize your audience instead of build the business.
Yeah, when I think about it, like, I don't want to be a YouTuber.
Yeah.
I don't even want to be a podcaster. Meaning, I don't want to be known for being a great podcaster.
Yeah.
So here's where I'm going with this, is that, I mean, the next business that I'm building is that I'm investing in other businesses and other entrepreneurs and Shark Tanking them, right?
Yep. And
I want to be known because those businesses were great.
I like how you use Shark Tanking as a verb there. I think everyone knows what you mean.
I think the way that I get my Cleveland Indians is not because capitalism.com becomes worth a $1 billion company. It won't ever be a $1 billion company, but it will document the $1 billion company.
Yeah.
And it will support the growth of a $1 billion company because we documented it. But I made the mistake. Here's the braingasm. Where I made the mistake was going all in on capitalism to make capitalism the thing rather than it being the container for things. Yeah. Because the way that you get insanely rich is by building great companies and investing the profits. And the document of that can't be the business itself. It has to be its own separate living thing. And we tried to make it the thing.
So let me ask this, because I know that you really enjoy doing podcasts. And
yeah.
I just recently listened to episode 1. It was really cool.
But I love doing them when I don't have to.
Yeah.
We tried to make the podcast and the following the business because it was working.
Yeah.
And the minute we did that, it started sucking.
Yeah. So you love doing it, enjoy doing it when it's not. You need to. It's not.
Because then I'm on the hamster wheel.
Yeah.
And it's like, we got to hire these people to manage the thing that's working. Yeah. And then now podcast managers like, I'm not a podcast, so you need to record more podcasts. It's like, why do I need to record more podcasts? Because we have to sell more advertising on it. Why do we need to sell more advertising on it? So that I get a paycheck. Well, why do you get a paycheck? So that Ryan can keep podcasting.
It's the hamster wheel.
You all can go to hell, and I can just podcast for goodness sake. Like, I don't know how that hamster wheel happened. It's like I don't need any of this shit.
Yeah.
And I feel like I made so many mistakes in that state. And like another example would be like the greatest success of my personal following was the success of the tribe. Mm-hmm. The tribe basically incubated a whack ton of millionaires.
Yeah, yeah.
And then we said, okay, we have this following of all these people who want to join the tribe. We need to turn this into a business. And we did, and that's when it fell apart. Because then we had to then I had to keep doing things in order to keep paying members happy. And then we had to sell it, even if we didn't want to. And then it just became this broken, amalgamous thing that wasn't the value that people wanted. Whereas I could have just charged for what was working and not adding anything to it in order to make it sustainable. And I just feel like I've realized now all the mistakes I've made coming to this point, and now we've hit the reset button.
Yeah.
And I have no idea where it's going to go next.
So 2 questions. First of all, what I was getting at here is, obviously I want to keep doing YouTube content. I've heard you downplay the role of content. If the content isn't the business, and most entrepreneurs shouldn't make content the business, what is the role it plays? Is it supplemental? Is it to share the stories, the success stories? I mean, if you want to pivot away from what we were doing, where does the content fit in?
I think 80% of content is a waste of time. And I think most people try to create content that ultimately doesn't lead to sales.
Oh, yeah.
And the purpose of content is ultimately to lead towards conversion, because nothing happens until it's sold, until something is sold.
Yeah.
Like that is the point. And conversion could be turning into a follower too. And most people just throw a bunch of things out there because they think they have to. For example, I was working with a client this week, or I was asked, we were talking about their Facebook following, and they were like, well, we have to pay this person because we have to keep releasing content. Really, why do you have to keep releasing content?
That's what you do. That's what everyone's doing.
That's what you're supposed to do.
You just got to do it.
And I think it's just a waste of time. I can't imagine why no one's listening.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many people have like come to me wanting to do a podcast with me, or they want to start their own podcast, or they do 5 episodes of a podcast and give up because it's like the cool, sexy thing everyone's doing.
Mm-hmm.
But without that tie to a business or a sale, it could be a big waste of time.
Yeah. Or it's just a passion project, which is fine. But it's not a business. So this is what I mean. Capitalism.com and Freedom Fastlane was always a passion project.
Yeah.
And the minute I tried to professionalize it and turn it into a business, that's when things started to break. And the business needed to be elsewhere.
And this is more of in the passion project than in the business side, but I would really love to help reshape people's ideas of what capitalism is as a positive force in the world. Especially millennials are overwhelmingly against the whole idea of capitalism. I think in some ways, instead of preaching it, you just live by example.
Yep.
You just document these stories.
Well, I've also found it's really difficult to have an argument in the positive, meaning it's really hard to change minds to say capitalism is good. That you're arguing from a difficult position.
Because they've already got their mind made up.
Well, it's more
they're going to come back.
You almost have to start with what the negative is.
Sure.
Because what is the argument against capitalism? Arguments capitalism is always look at the difference between rich and poor.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the extremes of poverty, and I could sit here and tell you, all that's bullshit. But now I'm just the guy saying everything's great, and our brains are wired to find problems.
Of course.
So now you just sound like you're making a weak argument,
or making light of people who are unfortunate, and
correct. So it's not a persuasive argument to say everything. It's almost like saying, man, everything Trump is doing is great, or everything that Obama did was great. And then while he's in office, your brain isn't wired to say things are good. People aren't going to look at
the overwhelmingly good stuff. They're going to be like, oh, but what about that?
Correct.
It's like whataboutism is a new word I like.
Yeah.
The whataboutism is but what about? But so
this is why it's a more powerful argument to say like this is why Democrats are stupid. Now I'm not saying that's an argument that we're going to have or that we want to have. It's a more attention getting and actually a more persuasive argument for me to make the argument about why Democrats or liberals are stupid than to argue why capitalism is great.
It's true. Yeah.
So I've realized that, I bought the domain name capitalism.com because I wanted to represent capitalism well. And because I'm very afraid of how our generation is abusing the name capitalism.
Yeah.
But to argue from the defensive position is a bad persuasive argument.
So let me bring back the tribe, because you have kind of said it as like a failure in certain aspects.
A mea culpa, we'll say, as tribe member Kellyanne Fidio would say.
That's like fancy French.
I think it means just like an admission of wrong.
Yeah. So
and the tribe wasn't a failure. I mean, it was a huge success. I just we just ruined it.
So as an entrepreneur, like how does
I hope he cuts that part out.
how does that change your perception of yourself as being successful?
It shatters.
Because right on the one hand, you have huge $10 million, $11 million sale.
Yeah.
At the same exact time, you have these other problems. So how does that change your perception of like, I'm a successful person, I'm a successful entrepreneur, or like
it shatters it.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know how else to put it except like, just like we don't look at what's going. Like our brains are wired to find problems. They're wired to find problems in your life too.
Yeah.
And just the fact that I've got a few mil in the bank, and a lake house that I paid cash for,
that you normalize,
and a $200,000 Tesla,
that you eventually normalize,
and a penthouse.
Like, that part of your life just becomes normal.
Right.
This is the new normal. I have this amount I've made in my bank account. And then you take it for granted. And then you're like, oh, but this is wrong.
Correct.
This has failed.
Nailed it.
This has gone bad.
Nailed it.
We don't appreciate the good because that's just not the way our brains are set up.
You nailed it once when you were like, wow, I wonder if Ryan envies my life. And I do.
It is a lot less more low stress.
Yeah, and I have no idea what it's like to have low stress.
Pressure on my shoulders.
Yeah.
And part of that's been very intentional. And that I enjoy documenting the stories of high achievers because I find it incredibly fascinating. You know, the books I read and sharing those stories with the world, but it doesn't mean I want to be running a $100 million company. I mean, maybe when I'm like 40 or something, who knows? But
it's funny, 40 doesn't feel that far away. It's like 10 years for both of us.
I know. I guess that's like the double-edged sword of like responsibility. You talk a lot about personal responsibility.
Totally. Like responsibility is not fun.
Yeah.
It's just the only way.
This is something Jordan Peterson's talking about. Is like everyone's talking about rights, but there are no rights without responsibility.
None.
And this is the conversation like no one is having.
It's a paradox between freedom and responsibility. People think that freedom is the absence of responsibility, but it's actually a heightened state of responsibility. People have this perception of, I want to be financially free. And they think that means I want to be like have the burden of finances removed from my brain. But it actually requires you to be more in tune to finances if you're going to be free.
Yeah.
Like freedom is control. Freedom is the system working within the control that you put on it. And we think that it just means you forget about it.
You just do whatever.
So here's a great example. This is what I've done to sink companies. The minute that I tune out and you don't mind the basket, as Warren Buffett would say, things crumble. Because, I'm successful now. I can tune out. That's when you get in trouble.
It makes me think of like even like the founding of this country, since we so much stand for like liberty, we're founded on is that okay, now the revolution, you leave the English empire, you're no longer under a monarch, but then it's like, okay, now what? Now we have to build a country. And it's just like now you have to build a business from scratch. It's easy to work for someone else, step into a role, go home, watch Game of Thrones. Who was it? I was watching this. I was watching this interview. It was Russell Brunson at the Capitalism Conference. He was talking about how he was worried about getting sued or going bankrupt. Do you remember that?
No.
There was a point at the Capitalism Conference where he knew that he had obligations to pay his employees and, make sure that all the finances worked out well. And he had taken on a tremendous amount of responsibility. And now he's so incredibly successful. But I think that's the story of like all entrepreneurs. Is that responsibility is the tool to create the life you want, change the future, have an impact on the world. But then it's like so much stress.
So let's take it to the next extreme here. Elon Musk
Oh my God. The ultimate.
has responsibility to protect the lives of millions of people who drive Teslas
Wow.
on autopilot.
Wow. I hadn't even thought about that.
Like,
Like this is life and death.
one autopilot crash, and now the entire reputation of Tesla
Yeah.
is in jeopardy.
Even if
Every Uber driver, can you think of how many people have died in Ubers?
Yeah, or one bad actor, some Uber driver who, sexually assaults their passenger or something. Now this makes the company look bad.
There you go.
And so, yeah, it always, the people at the top hold the responsibility.
There's only an increase in responsibility. There's a direct correlation between the amount of responsibility and the amount of growth or success that you have.
I remember when you had James Altucher on the podcast, he was saying that he would not want to trade places with Elon Musk for like exactly that reason, because his life doesn't have that much responsibility. I think I guess we all have to decide how much we're comfortable with.
Yeah, correct. So this is where I feel like I'm resetting, in the sense of I don't think I was a proper steward of my responsibility when my following started to pop, when my following started to resonate. I wasn't a good steward of people's attention and desires.
But things like, for example, the chapters, doing the local chapters we had all over the world. I mean, is that just a bad idea we shouldn't have done to begin with?
You just don't do them if you're not prepared for the responsibility that will come from them.
Sure.
And
something that ambitious might mean a whole nother employee to manage it or something.
Yeah, and we had chapters in Israel and San Fran and Miami and New York City, and
which before I joined
Austin.
The team, it sounded like so cool.
Yeah,
and then I joined the team and I was like, cool. Oh my God.
And what you saw was like us freaking out all the time trying to manage all this stuff going on.
Yeah.
And it just like there was just too much. And that was me falling in love with an idea and then trying to build the idea. It's funny. This is very therapeutic for me, talking about it out loud.
Oh, that's good. Huh?
Yeah, because like as soon as you say it, you're like, "What the hell was it? This was so stupid. Like, what did you think was going to happen?" And so now it, like, once you talk about it, it's like, okay, well, I can't ever be that stupid again. So let's document what we do moving forward.
So looking forward, I like how in a recent email and a post you did and Instagram post, you were talking about you only want to do things that you love and that are energizing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, do you think it's possible we're gonna find a way to set the vision, take on this responsibility, but still have fun doing it?
Yeah. Like I spent so much time in my head trying to figure that out. And once you're in your head, you're dead, as Tony Robbins would say. But I know step one was that we just had to cut a lot of shit. Like we had to cut. We had to make the team smaller. We had to cut all these projects that we had running around, so we weren't doing anything well. And then we had to regroup as a team, refill the bank account.
Yeah.
And then we can reassess, okay, who do we want to be when we grow up?
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing now. It's like, all right.
Does it feel like we're in an exciting transitional stage?
I'm glad you think it's exciting. I'm still beating myself.
I think so.
I still beat myself up.
I see new Backroom members joining every week.
Yeah.
Oh, we've got some exciting stuff I shouldn't talk about on camera in the works, product-wise.
You can tell them.
And new team members. So,
I mean, we basically did a reboot of the whole company, which feels really nice. Like, I feel much more energized
Yeah.
simply by the fact that we stopped doing things that weren't working. But and I have relaxed my need to have like a 3-year vision in favor of just doing things really well now. We created so many millionaires because we were intentional on them in the moment, rather than trying to build a 3-year vision for something. And now we're back there. And so what I care about now is what's fun today that provides value for other people. It doesn't matter what happens in 3 years. It matters, like, are you enjoying showing up today and helping your customers today?
Yeah, going back to Tony Robbins for a second, I love how he talks a lot about aiming to live in a state of like pure joy and bliss every moment of every day. And I feel like this is a goal he tries to live by with his wife now. And it sounds like impossible. It sounds like only like Christ could live like that, or some Gandhi type of figure, you know? But I like setting that sort of goal for yourself, maybe in life and in business, because it's one of those things where it's like, well, if you shoot for the stars and you only get to the stratosphere, you're still way up above the rest.
Yeah. I want to call bullshit.
Or do you think the negativity is useful or necessary?
No, it's more if your goal is to be in a constant state of bliss. How do you feel when you have a bad day?
I think maybe you apply the Hal Elrod like 5-minute technique of like you experience the emotions, the pain, and you move on.
Okay.
I mean, he was like, right?
That's what
life or death experience in the hospital, and he was able to stay in a positive mood. And I'm not at that point yet, but I want to be at that point.
I gotcha. I'm more leery of people setting the goal of happiness in the first place. Like, is happiness really the highest goal?
Oh man, this is getting deep. I don't know, like philosophical type of stuff.
I think it is good to be happy and to optimize happiness, but
yeah.
But people have an expectation that life is about the pursuit of happiness, and so happiness eludes them. What we consider happiness in today's world, where everything's amazing and no one's happy, what we consider happiness is excitement. And it's impossible to always be excited. Happiness, true happiness, is an acceptance of what is. That's contentment.
Yeah.
That's what happiness is.
Interesting.
Happiness is an appreciation for what is.
Because, you know, you being a father, I'm sure it's not all Skittles and beer. It's not all rainbows and
Did you just say
unicorns.
Skittles and beer?
Have you not heard that? It's an old...
there's...
Okay, so it's...
If you gave me 100 ways to describe fatherhood, I wouldn't have said... Actually, Skittles and beer is probably how most Americans describe fatherhood. It's like, have some Skittles, I'm having a beer.
I love that. Yeah, as a side note, that comes from like an old like Irish folk song or something, and like Skittles is a game of 9. It's like a 9-pin bowling game, like where you like throw a bowling ball and you try and knock over the pin, and that was a game called Skittles. So it is not a reference to the candy. So yeah, I have really really weird references to things. But yeah, I've been checking a lot of Jordan Peterson lately, and he's talking a decent amount about that. Like, people want novelty and pleasure in the absence of pain. They don't always pursue like fulfillment and contentment, like you're talking about. Mm-hmm. So you're in the contentment camp.
Yeah, totally.
Or I'm maybe a little bit more hedonistic. I don't know.
What, like you're pursuing?
Like good times, like
I pursue
living in the present.
Yeah, I pursue that too. Like, I desire that too. But what we have bought into is the idea that if you're not in that state, that you're not happy and that there's something wrong with us. And I think that's the common belief, that if you're not in a positive state, that something's wrong with you, because the goal is happiness.
You know what I guess I'm really aiming for, and I think this ties into business entrepreneurship too, is that like I want to create as many memorable days as I can. It sucks when you look back on a month and a quarter and you're kind of like, where did the time go? Or, okay, I guess I hung out with my mom on this day, and then I went to this networking event on this day, and then we had a workshop on this day. But I feel like in an ideal life, you're creating more memorable moments.
The mind fuck of that is that you only know what those are in the rearview mirror.
Totally. As you're experiencing it, you're just in it.
Pam has done a really good job of getting me to see this.
Does she remind you of good memories? Or like, do you remember this day?
No, it's different. It's she takes the philosophy of Up. Remember the movie Up?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember the heart-wrenching opening of that movie?
Oh my gosh, yes. I was like, I cried.
If you don't cry at the beginning of Up, you don't have a soul.
Yeah, and I don't cry in a lot of movies, but like the first 5 minutes, oh my God.
Oh, it's heart-wrenching.
I gotta stay away from that movie.
Right? It's a kid. Like the only reason why they got away with that in a kids movie is because it was so damn sad that it went over kids' heads.
Yeah,
like,
they couldn't even understand why.
It had no reference point for how like heart-wrenching that was. Anyway, that scene ends. You know, they're saving for vacation and they keep breaking it because things keep happening. And the scene ends with the wife leaving the old man a note saying, "Thanks for all the adventures." And the adventures were the miscarriage, the broken, like the rusty old house. And Pam takes the philosophy of like, thanks for all the adventures.
Yeah.
Like life is its own story, is its own adventure. And she has been so grounding for me of getting me to realize that.
That's a good perspective, man. Because like, I've definitely grown the most and learned the most from my failures. And you talk a lot about this, but it's so true. I look back on some of my bad memories as like good memories.
Yeah.
Because there was a lesson there, or things are better now.
This is what I mean of when you said, so you must be enjoying the suck right now. No, I'm not enjoying the suck.
But maybe
I just
in the
know
future,
that in a few years,
Yeah.
I'll look back and think I learned so much.
Yep.
No one learns while they're succeeding. People learn when they're failing their
You're on
ass
top of the
off.
world. Everything's going great.
Yeah, you don't learn in that state.
It's all Skittles and beer.
You learn when things suck because you're humble enough to learn. So I got humbled.
Yeah.
And now I'm learning again, which is great, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think there's any way to be ecstatic through the hard times. You just gotta power through, you know.
You know what is ecstatic though? Is like I didn't lose everything, but in the scenario in which you lose everything, all little things are progress, and your brain sees all progress as happiness. It's like it's a serotonin kick. Yeah, because there's a positive comparison. So, for example, like I don't fear being poor. What am I afraid of? Eating beans? Beans are freaking delicious. Like I don't fear being poor. I fear losing it all.
And Gary Vee says he almost wants to lose it all so he can make it all back.
Right. So exactly. Like the being poor, every piece of growth is awesome. your brain thinks in comparison.
Yeah.
I don't fear the being poor.
Yeah.
I'm probably happier if I'm poor because every little piece of growth is awesome.
Totally.
It's the losing that I fear. It's the losing the millions in the bank and the Tesla and the house and the condo. Like, I fear that.
I heard some story about one of the richest men in the world, you know, net worth goes from $8 billion to $5 billion, and he killed himself.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's all relative, you know. So in the spirit of doing things you love, let's do a little like thought experiment here. And like, let's say it's September. What do you think your day looks like? Ideally,
I don't know. Ideally,
we just had our August event. It was a great success. We're already ramping up for CapCon. I mean, because you've talked a bit about community, making videos, spending time with people you like.
Yeah.
And then what does the business look like?
Yeah, I don't know, but I can point to a few activities that I did that I think were eye-opening for me. One was when we were in the Onnit headquarters and we were recording with Aubrey Marcus.
Yeah.
I was like, how do I do this every day?
Yeah.
And
Billie Jean.
The other was in San Diego, Billie Jean, going, oh my goodness, I'm arguing politics while drunk on a show that's supposed to be about business. How do I do this every day? Like, this is my purpose, right? So much fun. So much fun. And then the third was sitting here in Austin with a client I really loved working with. Just two buddies who found the podcast, built a multi-million-dollar business, and now they need help scaling. And like sitting there and going through their business was freaking great.
Do I know them?
You don't.
Did you just make that? Okay.
You don't.
This is a consulting client of yours.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, just do more of that. Now, I mean,
you know, what's funny is Pam is my voice of reason, right? And she says to me, she's like, you need to be okay, like working with clients, teaching entrepreneurs, and you podcast to get your name out there, and you have a few events.
Yeah. Like,
stop trying to grow what's 5 years from now? Like,
I do get that sense from you that there's disappointments because things aren't happening faster.
Yeah.
Where someone else who's less ambitious would be like, everything's going great. Oh my God.
Totally right. Totally.
But because
right.
you want to do so much and so fast, that's the setup.
Yeah, I've made the game of happiness really hard on myself because my comparison is where I want to be, not what's going well.
So do you do personal quarterly goals? I know you do like journaling.
I do more yearly.
Yearly? Yeah. And do you think they're reachable?
Yeah.
Like, do you think you're going to hit this year's annual goals?
You know what's funny, Chris, is like they're more reachable the less I do.
What do you mean the less you do?
The fewer things I do, the easier the goals are to hit.
Mm-hmm.
I used to just pile it on and pile it on and pile it on, and then I would break. Like, my fitness goals aren't that ambitious, except when I just don't have the energy to do it. And my cortisol is at a whack, so I crave salty food all the time. I just want to eat a bag of chips. My financial goals aren't all that ambitious as long as there's one or two things that we're just knocking out of the park rather than 12 things that we're trying to juggle.
Yeah.
The amount of free time I have, that goal is not all that ambitious as long as I have 2 people reporting to me rather than 12 C players
reporting
to me. So it's like the less I do, the faster I go. And I bought into this lie that in order to go faster, I had to do more.
Yeah. I was literally just thinking, it sounds like the biggest mistake you could make now is to overcommit to new projects and new things.
A tribe member called me out as like, we don't know who you, like what your brand is because you got too many things going on.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know you've talked to me about that. Like, you've said, I don't know what the market perceives me to be.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know. I look at you as like the brand expert, the millionaire maker, the e-commerce guru.
I don't want to be an e-commerce guru.
But you're really good at it. Like this client.
I just don't want to be known for it. It's like something I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't want that to be my brand. Millionaire maker is fine.
I think, we've talked about this. The eventual goal is you're just Ryan Moran.
Yeah.
And your personality speaks for itself. People know different intricacies of who you are, what you stand for. And
I try to build that without building like...
I like Ryan Moran will always be the pro-capitalism guy. You know?
Well, I hope so. I'd be really disappointed in myself. I'm watching this 2 years from now and they'll be like, I'm a pro-government guy now. That's the millionaire maker.
You're going to drop it all and run for Senate.
What's that?
Is that you're going to drop it all and run for Senate?
That was the best April Fool's joke ever. You know, Faraz was like, you have no idea how much you ruined my day when I realized you weren't running for Senate.
He was ready to campaign.
He's like, I'm going to be campaign manager.
Oh, yeah, there was a couple people already. Oh, well. We handled it well. I thought it was obvious.
It was awesome.
To anyone who knows you.
Resurrect Texas. Because it was Easter. Oh, my goodness.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's been a tough year for me, C-Money.
Yeah.
But tough in the sense of like I now wonder how I could have been so stupid, but I'm glad I'm getting the lesson now and not later.
Yeah.
And I do think that 2 years from now, I'll look back and be like, man, if I hadn't got that lesson then, I would still have been doing what I was always doing. And my life tends to do this. Like I expand way too fast, and then I come back and I cut it in time, and then I grow really fast again. Like I remember 5 years ago, I was just doing stuff that wasn't making me happy. And I felt like to get through it, I had to expand through it. So I hired all these people. It was just like now. I hired all these people, didn't know what I was building, stopped paying attention to things. And I went for broke, and it broke me. And I mean, like physically, mentally, it broke me. And so I cut it all. And then I had the mental energy to the next opportunity along, and I just smashed it out of the park. And people would come up to me, and they were still doing the things that they hated that I had been doing. And they were like, how did you get out of this? It's like, what do you mean? You just stopped it.
Yeah.
And that's what I feel like I'm doing now. It's like we're heading in a direction that I wasn't happy with. So we had to cut it. We just had to.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when you first started and you had all these different people that you were reporting to. And as soon as we cut it all, you were like, oh, now I know what to do.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how I feel now, where it's like I'm getting rid of all this junk and all of a sudden I know what to do. So I just keep getting rid of junk, and maybe the answers just show up.
This is a little different, but it reminds me of this time I left a bunch of equipment in my trunk, and I think I told you this, it all got stolen one night. At 1 a.m., somebody broke into my car and stole a couple $1,000s of video equipment, photo equipment, really important bag that I got as a graduation gift from college. And it's weird. I was so angry. I was so frustrated for a really long time. And I blamed myself for not, taking care of my equipment better and leaving it in the car. and not somewhere safe. And now that I look back at it, this happened when I was like 26. I'm like, dude, what if that happened now when I'm 29 even? And it was like more gear, it was like more equipment. It was like an SD card loaded with a full day's worth of Moran footage. And it's like, it's a weird thing, but I'm glad the mistake and that hard experience happened then, because I learned the important lesson about like respecting my gear and my equipment and just the relationship of like trust with people and strangers. So yeah, just like I was saying earlier, it's like the hardest stuff, man. You don't enjoy it at the time. It was one of the worst days of my life. But if I didn't learn the lesson then, I only would have learned it later in a more severe way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So bad, man. So then so then I switched from Canon to Nikon. And I'm going to go all Sony eventually.
The thing that came to mind when you were saying that was what Hal said at Capcom last year of like, I can't change it.
Yeah.
So what are we going to do about it moving forward?
Yeah. Good guests, man. Good.
What's that?
Good guests we had.
Yeah, we do a good
really
job
solid
at Capcom,
lineup.
don't we?
Yeah. People need to come to the next one.
Plug.
All right. Well, I don't know. Is there anything else?
I think it's time for bed. I'm exhausted. You're in your pajamas.
Good chat. Yeah. This is gonna be interesting. But good choice on the couch.